All right, diving right in today. We're talking about this 30-day AI protocol transformation system.
Yes.
I think the listeners of this show are probably pretty familiar with that. This is making waves, right?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of buzz around that for sure, especially for car dealerships, right? I mean, this thing is like, supposed to unlock some serious growth.
That's the idea. And today we're zeroing in on one specific piece of it, day 19, if I'm not mistaken.
You are not day 19, and it's all about training, getting those dealership teams up to speed with all the AI tools, which I think we can all agree is kind of make or break when it comes to actually seeing those AI benefits.
Yeah, totally. I mean, what good is all this fancy tech if nobody knows how to use it?
Exactly. And the thing that really jumped out at me, prepping for this deep dive was the way they talk about training, like specifically for AI. It's not just your typical, here's how the software works kind of thing.
Right. It's different. And I'm guessing that's what we're digging into today. Why this shift in training methodology?
Yeah.
And what does it actually mean for, folks like our listeners, the ones actually trying to make this stuff work in their dealerships?
Yeah, let's get into it. I mean, you're in management, you're in marketing, you're hearing all about AI, probably feeling the pressure to implement it.
Maybe even tried a few things already.
Could be. And you're wondering, okay, how do I actually get my team on board with this, without turning it into this big, scary tech monster?
Yeah, no one wants to be the one forcing a bunch of complicated software onto their team and having everybody hate them for it.
Right. So let's talk about what doesn't work first. We see this a lot, in these initial attempts at AI training. It's very, I guess, traditional is the word. Think dealership A, mandatory training sessions, click this button, then that button, very rigid, very process focused.
So like learning by rote.
Kind of. Here's the CRM's AI feature. Here's the step-by-step manual for the AI-powered inventory management system. Memorize it. Go.
Yep, been there, seen those training manuals. They're not exactly page turners. And I'm guessing the results were, how do we put this, less than stellar.
Yeah. Underwhelming is a good word. Teams go through the motions, maybe they even take notes, but they don't really internalize it.
And more importantly, they don't actually use it in their day-to-day work.
It's like learning the steps to a dance, right? You can memorize the sequence, but until you feel the music, you're not really dancing, are you?
No, you're just kind of awkwardly going through the motions.
Yeah.
And I guess the music, in this case, is that comfort level with AI, that sense of, I know what this thing can do, and I'm not afraid to use it.
Exactly. It's about comfort. And this is where the whole learning to swim analogy comes in, right? You can explain the physics of buoyancy, you can demonstrate the perfect stroke technique, but until someone actually gets in the water and feels safe, they're not going to become a swimmer.
Makes sense. So knowing the steps isn't enough. You need to feel comfortable, even a little bit curious, about the water, in this case, the AI.
Right. And if you don't have that, you'll see it. Someone encounters a situation that's even slightly different from what they were explicitly trained on, and they panic, revert back to the old, familiar ways, even if those ways are less efficient.
The comfort isn't there, the confidence is shaky, so they default to what they know. So, okay, that's what not to do. What about a dealership that's getting this right?
Well, dealership B, that's our shining example here. They did things totally differently. They went in saying, you know what, forget the technical stuff for a minute. We need our people to actually want to use this stuff.
So they started with comfort. But how?
They gave everyone access to those conversational AI tools like ChatGPT, Claude, things like that. And then they basically said, go play.
Wait, seriously, just gave them free rein to mess around with it, like not even for work stuff.
Yeah. Ask it about your hobbies, get help planning a vacation, whatever. The point was to take the pressure off, to let people explore without that fear of messing up some important work task.
So kind of like build a relationship with the AI before asking it to do your taxes.
Kind of. It's about breaking down those barriers, making it feel familiar, even fun. And guess what? It worked.
Tell me they weren't just slacking off all day, chatting with AI about their favorite sports teams.
They weren't, because what happened was organically people started to see how this could actually be helpful in their work. Like, oh, I asked it to compare different fishing rods. I bet I could use it to compare different car models for a customer.
That transfer learning you mentioned earlier. So they get comfortable in a low-stakes environment, and suddenly they're using those same skills to solve work problems. Pretty slick.
Right. And that's exactly what dealership B saw. They actually had a significant increase in AI tool utilization within the first month. People were actually using this stuff.
That's huge. Okay, so that's the philosophy, the comfort-first approach. But how do we actually put this into practice?
Well, the 30-day AI protocol breaks it down into 4 layers, starting with, you guessed it, comfort building.
Layer 1. So what does that look like in the dealership?
It's all about giving your team permission to play, to explore those conversational AI tools for non-work things. Give them access, maybe even some fun prompts to get them started. The goal here isn't productivity, it's relationship building.
That story about the sales manager who used ChatGPT to plan his fishing trip, that's a great example. He went from skeptical to actually seeing the value, and it wasn't even about work.
Totally. He took it from scary tech monster to this thing might actually be useful, and that's layer 1 in action.
Okay, layer 2, let me guess. Time to start bringing in some actual work.
You got it. Practical application. This is where you introduce AI for those simple work tasks, low stakes stuff, researching vehicle specs, drafting a quick email, summarizing meeting notes, things where the AI can help, but even if it's not perfect, it's not a disaster.
So build that confidence. Show them how it can actually make their lives easier.
Exactly. And because they're already comfortable with the tools, they're more likely to actually use them to experiment, to see what works, and then
Okay.
they start to connect the dots, like, hey, if I can ask it about fishing, I can ask it about car specs.
That transfer learning again. Nice. All right, what about layer 3? Things getting a bit more serious now.
Yeah, this is where things get more sophisticated. Team members are comfortable, they've got the basics. Now they start exploring those more advanced applications. Maybe they're combining different AI tools, doing deeper analysis, even starting to customize things.
So the training wheels are off. They're driving this thing themselves now.
Exactly. It's organic growth driven by their own understanding and confidence, not just a checklist of tasks from management. The sales consultant who went from using ChatGPT for basic stuff to analyzing her sales calls, that's a great example of this.
She saw the potential and ran with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so what's the final level? Where do we end up? Layer 4, true mastery. This is where the magic happens. People aren't just using AI, they're innovating with it. They're coming up with entirely new ways to use it to improve their work, to wow customers, to create new opportunities for the dealership.
So they become like AI wizards, basically.
Kind of. It's not just a tool anymore, it's an extension of their own skills and creativity. And that's the power of this comfort-first approach.
It's making me want to go play with ChatGPT right now.
Do it. But okay, let's be real. Not everyone on a team is going to be jumping in with both feet. You're going to have folks who are more hesitant, maybe even a little scared of this technology. How do you handle that?
Yeah, because forcing those people into the deep end probably isn't the best strategy.
Definitely not. Successful dealerships are recognizing this, right? They're creating different exploration pathways, for lack of a better term.
Okay, I like that. Different paths depending on comfort level. So, what do those paths look like?
For your early adopters, the ones who are excited, give them the tools, the resources, let them run wild. For the cautious ones, let them observe, see the benefits firsthand from their colleagues, get comfortable at their own pace.
And for those who are really hesitant, maybe even a bit scared.
Find those personally relevant applications, show them how AI can help them with their specific challenges or interests. That can be a game changer.
Makes sense. So it's less about forcing everyone through the same training program and more about creating a culture of exploration and support.
Exactly. It's about ongoing learning, knowledge sharing, and creating a space where people feel safe to experiment and ask questions.
And even the physical environment plays a role, right? You mentioned learning zones earlier. What are those exactly?
These are dedicated spaces, comfortable, informal, where people can mess around with AI, ask questions, learn from each other. It's about taking the pressure off and making it feel like a natural part of the workday.
I love that. It's like instead of mandatory AI training, it's come hang out in the AI lounge, see what cool stuff you can discover.
Exactly. And how you measure success changes too, right? It's not just about completion rates anymore.
So what are we looking for? If I'm a manager, how do I know this is working?
You're looking for those signs of genuine engagement. Are people asking insightful questions, sharing their discoveries, exploring beyond the bare minimum? That's how you know it's sticking.
It's about that intrinsic motivation, the desire to use AI because they see the value, not because they're being forced to.
Right. It's a complete mindset shift. And it all starts with comfort.
So to wrap up our deep dive into this day 19 of the 30-day AI protocol, it's clear. Comfort comes first. Before the technical training, before the complex workflows, before the AI wizardry, we need to make sure people feel safe, curious, and ready to explore.
Like learning to swim. You got to get comfortable in the water before you can start doing laps.
Perfect analogy. And for our listeners, those automotive professionals out there, Here's the question to ask yourselves. Are you focusing more on teaching your team to swim the strokes, or are you making sure they feel comfortable enough to even get in the water?
Because that's where it all begins. And in future deep dives, as we explore the rest of the 30-day AI protocol, we'll get into how to measure the impact of these AI initiatives.
But as we've seen today, the success of those measurements depends heavily on the groundwork you lay right now.
Absolutely.
This has been great. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We hope this has given you some serious food for thought, and we encourage you to think about how you can bring this comfort-first approach to your own dealerships.
It's a game changer.
Until next time.